It's no secret that, especially for women, community is vital. When we hold space for other women and allow ourselves to be supported by others, the end result can be transformative. When you add a little scrapbooking, crafting, or card making, that experience can produce lasting friendships and even lifelong transformation. Designer and craft expert Beth Kingston has created these restorative experiences for fellow military spouses over the years. And in doing so, Beth discovered the healing power of community, especially when creativity is part of the formula. On this episode of the Wendy Crafts podcast, you'll meet Beth Kingston and discover how opening her home to those in her own backyard and literally around the world, thanks to YouTube, has motivated her creative business and even clarified her life's purpose. Hello and welcome to Wendy Crafts, the podcast where we heal through the creative work of our hearts and our hands. I'm Wendy Townley, and for over a decade, crafting has given me resilience, purpose, and strength. Creative hobbies like scrapbooking and card making have been part of Beth Kingston's life for many years. Perhaps best known by crafters throughout her regular appearances on the Home Shopping Network, Beth brings her unmistakable enthusiasm and humor to every on-air presentation. But there's much more to Beth's story and what motivates her passion for storytelling. On this episode, hear from Beth Kingston and understand how a simple photograph can become a lifelong treasure. Plus, learn more about a special opportunity from Kingston Crafts for Wendy Crafts listeners. Beth Kingston of Kingston Crafts, welcome to Wendy Crafts. It is a treat to have you here and have you all to myself for the next
oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
17 hours. I'm going to ask you everything.
I'm ready. I'm caffeinated. I had a snack. I'm ready.
Good. Well, I have been following you for several years in the crafting community on HSN. We are going to get to your creative journey and how you got to where you are today. But
great.
It was really during COVID, like so many of us, we were stuck at home. I really dove headfirst into my crafting and my creativity. And started watching HSN and started seeing you online, and then followed you everywhere and just have always appreciated your candor, your sense of humor, your creativity, and just like the realness of you. And so
thank you.
As I started building out the idea for Wendy Crafts and the podcast, I knew that you were someone I wanted to ask to have on, to have a conversation, again, not about only your just creativity, but also as it ties into mental health. So this is a treat
that makes
for
my
me.
whole, you've made my week. I'm so excited. And as I know, because I also follow you, this is so important, especially as women. And I don't think people are talking about it enough. So I appreciate how it all ties in together. I appreciate the honesty about it. I appreciate how so many other people in this space have been willing to share. Because I think, as we know, sometimes the internet puts on a bright, shiny, happy face for things when that isn't always the case. And so I appreciate everything that you are doing.
Okay.
And letting people share their stories. And I am psyched.
Good.
I'm psyched to be here.
We're about to get real dark, people. Real dark, real quick.
Brace yourselves.
Right. Well, I want to know from a creative standpoint, as you move about your day in all of the projects and things that you're involved with, how does creativity show up unexpectedly? It's obviously a very conscious decision because of your business and your work, but unexpectedly, where does it show up?
What's so great is, and I think anybody who's sort of, I mean, obviously I do this for a living, but if you're someone like in your neighborhood or in your circle of friends who is known for being crafty, so often we have Navy kids from the Naval Academy that live with us on the weekends, and they will last Saturday, a couple of the kids were over and they were like, hey, we need to make a poster for our class, or hey, we need to, make XYZ. Or one of my neighbors will say, hey, so-and-so just had a baby. Do you have some ribbon I can use to tie? So our house is sort of known as the crafty house. And people think of us when they need to, borrow some markers or are having kids over and want a kids craft idea. So I spend most of my day working on my actual craft business. So to have those little pops of, hey, I know you're thinking about spreadsheets and logistics and shipping, but Sally wants a kids craft idea for the birthday party she's hosting next weekend. That's what helps my creativity sort of stay fresh, is because I'm constantly popping around for to help other people be creative. And it tickles me. It tickles me to no end.
So you're saying if I show up at your front door and ask to work on a scrapbook page, it's a hard yes.
this is the place for you. If I have cleared off counter space, there is room for you.
I love that concept, the cleared off counter space, because it really is so much about making space and having intention for bringing creativity in your life, whatever it is. For us, it's paper crafting, but for others, it can be so many different things.
Yes, watercolors or crochet or needlepoint. A lot of people these days, it seems like, are taking up crafts that they can do on the move. And I love everything about that idea, because I would rather sit at a soccer game and crochet than scroll on my phone. Mm-hmm. So I love that people are taking it out with them. And
for the mental and emotional health benefits, which we'll talk about, I think that nothing can surpass something creative with our hands as opposed to doom scrolling on our phones, where there is no end until the battery dies. Well, when we think about creativity, and I think about the role that it plays in my life during hard days, hard chapters of my life, I'd love to hear, and I know those joining us today would love to hear, how creativity has showed up for you as a place to offer healing, either mentally, emotionally, maybe even physically.
Sure. So I think most people are sort of familiar with our journey. As you and I were talking earlier, Don Kingston, my husband, is a very prominent part of my life, obviously, in my craft world. I talk about him quite a bit. He was in the Army for 21 plus years. He was in special operations. And so he was gone for a good part of our marriage. And so back in the day, because I'm 7,000 years old, when we were newly married, social media was not a thing. And the internet was like there, but not, you weren't hanging out there and you weren't talking to people there. So I was alone so much of the time. And I was already a scrapbooker back then. And so I used to go to crops at a girlfriend's house or a weekend retreat. And I found I was not alone, physically not alone. And it helped to take my mind off of worrying about because we were in no contact at all when he was deployed. And so rather than sort of sitting in my own juices at home by myself, I had that ability to go out and be with other people and be quote unquote normal, but also all of the other spouses who were alone. When I was thinking about talking to you today, I was sort of going back in my memories. And I remember we lived in this house in Columbus, Georgia, and we just had this basement that, looking back now, was so gross and dark and, dank. And it was a basement, but I would invite the other wives over and we would make Christmas ornaments, or we would make scrapbook pages, or we would make cards to send to the guys. And so it helped them to not feel alone. And even if they weren't crafty, it gave them a place to go and it gave them something to do. So that has been I was working professionally shortly after that in crafts, but it's the community of people that helped me keep my sanity during all of those deployments. And I think that did it for other spouses as well. So it was both when Anna was on your podcast, I heard her talking about, being the receiver of people's feelings. So I had the joy and the honor and the weight of being both the receiver and the receivee of people needing to create to take care of themselves mentally and emotionally. So it's been my whole married life. For sure. Don Kingston has caused me a lot of mental anguish.
And it's reflected by the materials and supplies you have behind you.
The giant rainbow I have of craft supplies back here.
That's right. Well, I love visualizing that because I know your home studio and crafting space now is also in a basement, but it is the opposite of creepy and dark and scary. But it stands to explain the power of just community and bringing people together. And I know at your home, you mentioned you bring people in just in your neighborhood and you'll do some crafting. Those other women that were joining you at the time in your other home, and I know we're going back several years, were all of them crafters by nature or trade? Were they, or were they just coming just for the community?
Just happy. It was, for the most part back then, it was other wives in our unit. In my husband's unit. And so, some of them were 18 years old. Wow. I was the oldest and I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And some of them, had newborns and some of them were newly married and some of them had just moved to town. And so some of those people might have never picked up a glue gun or a piece of scrapbook paper again. But in that moment, it gave them something to do and somewhere to be. And even, even some of those women probably came and just had a glass of wine and colored on a piece of paper and called it good. But to me, that's the beauty of crafting is if you don't leave here with XYZ, you are not a good crafter. You do what you want to do. You do what makes you happy. You do what feels comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. It's just about being together. It has always been that for me, about being together. And so I've carried that forward. We have events here in our house. We're very lucky to live in an amazing neighborhood. And one of our neighbors is a very accomplished watercolor artist. She is hosting a class here in my studio for our neighborhood in October. And she did it last year. And it's people in their 30s to people in their 80s. Some of us are great. Some of us are not great, but it's just the being together of it. Mm-hmm. And yes, if you leave with something amazing, great. And if you don't, you leave with a full heart. Yes. And to me, that's what matters.
It's so true. And I love this idea that you mentioned of bringing people together. And I definitely have found that too, because I teach junk journal workshops online through Zoom, but then also at craft stores here in Omaha, where I live. Mm-hmm. And it is a joy to see largely women who attend, who are, I say this lovingly, dragged by another friend. The woman who comes doesn't have craft experience, but just, wanted to get a house or came along. Because she's telling me, well, I'm not creative. I don't know how many times I hear people tell me that. And I say, I'm going to give you a pile of stuff. Some of it is Kingston Crafts. And we throw it on the table. Yeah. And we do stuff from Anna Griffin and Diamond Press and all of the brands and stuff that I cobbled together over the years. And I said, there's no rules. As someone once said to me, you don't have to be afraid of the blank page. We're just here to play around. And seeing them leave with full hearts, as you said, it is the greatest and gifter, because all I'm doing is convening people together, and it is mainly women, but it's
convening
so
and providing the supplies.
Yes.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah.
And you're doing that.
Oh, I love that.
With your lives that I know that you do online. Obviously you're doing that on HSN, but when you're doing your lives for Kingston Crafts, especially, and with Diamond Press, there is such a sense of community that's present there, and it's so visible and tangible, and I'm drawn to it, and I know others are as well. And to me, it seems from day one to have been very intentional for you.
It is, and that's what has always been important to me is, I am exactly the person you see on television, and I am exactly the person you see in lives. And this is the way Don and I lead our life, is to be inclusive instead of exclusive. And if you see us on the street, if you see us in the grocery store, if you see us at a restaurant, I love people, and I want to be with people, and I want to experience the world with people. And so we we did learn during COVID that was possible to do online, but you have to really work at it. And so because it comes naturally to me, I think it was a great fit. When we were able to go back to HSN in person, obviously I was the first person to run there because I need that person-to-person connection. But because we can't all be together in person, the lives really, they bring me as much joy as I hope they bring people, because I love to read the comments. And I will never forget, again, going back to the Navy kids, because there are so many and they're everywhere. One of our Navy kids didn't believe what I do for a living is real.
Like,
they
job.
tell everybody I make stickers in my basement. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was doing a live one night and he came down to see what was happening. And so he came around to the front of the camera and we were showing him, like, here's how many people are watching and here's, XYZ. And so he was waving and talking to people. And then I jokingly said, Mitch is getting ready to leave for a date tonight. And he died a little bit on the inside, but and so he sort of left and went on his date. Yeah, I'm a fantastic pseudo parent. For multiple months after that, during lives, people would say in the comments, "How's Mitch? How does date go? How are the kids? And so people buy into this family that we've built here in this community. We build here because we feel as strongly about them as they feel about us. So it's a symbiotic relationship, and I get probably more out of it than the people who watch, because I feel so lucky to do this. So I don't take a second of it for granted. And it's just the Kingstons.
Yeah,
it's just the Kingstons when Beth is showered and sometimes put on some makeup.
Right. It's
the only difference.
Wonderful, because it does really feel like we are in your house when your dogs show up. And I was following online when you were doing some renovations upstairs in your home, and you pull, that's one of the beautiful gifts of social media, is where you're able to kind of pull back the veneer and the curtain of the mystery and say, this is real life. And I think to me, I'm drawn to those types of people in real life, but then online, because it's just, there's just a connection that can occur there.
Me too. I can't imagine how exhausting it must be to put on a facade. Well, I just don't know how to be that. I'm too lazy to do that.
It sounds like a lot of work. And it kind of leads into my next question that I wanted to ask you is, obviously, who you are is what you do, and vice versa. It definitely fills every square of your days. But I'm curious, when you are powering down after a weekend of, whatever you have going on in your community, when you have to be on air, when you're scheduled to do a live, and you're drained emotionally, you're dealing with something that we will never know about because it's not something obviously you're going to share. I want to know how you take care of yourself, but also if there's any creative hobbies that you turn to that really help the Beth Kingston that we don't always see.
Well, so what's interesting about that, I think, is, and this might be a problem on my part, there aren't a lot of things that people don't know about us. When my dad died, we were very upfront about that. When our nephew came to live with us, we were very upfront about that. How COVID affected our business, we've been very upfront about that. Tariffs, we've been very upfront about that. So because I don't know how to be anything else, we probably overshare what's happening. But that can also be draining, because also people can be judgmental. So that's what drains me. It's not the being on and having all these people, because we love to have a house full of people, and I love to talk to people online. I love to do the lives. It's the judgment that drains me. And so I'm an avid reader. And that's what I do, is I get off of my phone and I tend to use an actual book, because then I'm not trying to read on my phone and getting notifications. I read an actual book. We are incredibly lucky to live on the water. And so I will sit on our porch, or I will go down to the dock and I will just sit and read, or sit in the silence, or I've become a real bird nerd. which I'm not ashamed of, but I just
Own
need
it,
to put that out
girl.
there.
Own it.
Yeah, it's okay. We have like 7,000 bird feeders and some of them have cameras. And so I will look at those and I go out to my garden. And so when I am feeling drained, it's because of what's happening online. And so I get offline, get out on the kayaks, go sit on the porch, read an actual book, go into the garden. Doom scrolling is not my friend. So when I am drained, I get offline. Or if I haven't been working all day, I will like work on my scrapbooks because it's offline. But sometimes if I have been working at my actual job all day, I also maybe don't want to craft.
Sure.
So just being off the internet, off my phone, not watching TV.
Power down. So the question that I think so many of us struggle with and so many who are listening is, how do you know then when the time is to unplug versus, especially as women, I just need to push through.
If you find the answer to that, please share it with me. I am very lucky to have a husband who will say to me, you need to take a break. And it's usually when and again, getting into the truth of it.
Yes.
If I have had enough, I have a very short temper. And so when I love everything, I'm happy about everything. So when I get angry, that means I have had an absolute enough. I am done. And so because I know that about myself and because I have a very patient husband, that's when I know I need to be done. But otherwise I do push through. And unfortunately, because of the job I have where I work in live television, there is no option to turn off. I can't in the middle of my day on HSN be like, you know what, I'm done.
I'm not feeling it, guys.
Today's not my day. So because of the industry that I happen to work in, which is live TV, and, getting all the products there and getting everything uploaded and doing all the lives. I don't have the option of managing my own schedule to give myself a break. So that's the only downside of this is I have never had the option to be like, you know what, I'm done. I've been at HSN for 20 years. For the first time ever, I think it was in January. It might have even been last fall. I got so sick on live television that I could not continue speaking, and they cut me off and sent me home.
During the segment.
Yeah. I was the Today's Special. I think may have been January. I was the Today's Special, and I'd been on 9 times throughout the day. And when you're to the Today's Special, you don't get to sleep at all. And so I was exhausted and my voice was going and I looked ill, like I was flushed. And I was on the 7 p.m. show and I was supposed to be on again at 8 and again at 11. And in the middle of the 7 p.m. show, they were like, you need to be done. You need to go. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated that. It's the first time it's ever happened and hopefully the only time it ever will happen. But that's how hard we drive ourselves. I would have kept on going if someone else had not said, yeah, you're done.
Right.
You need to go. You're bothering the customers. You need to go.
When you then, the reality of what had just happened and you either got back to your hotel room or whatever and had a minute to catch your breath, metaphorically, but really, did you then realize oh man, I was really bad? Did the reality of how sick you were and how hard you, and I say we, because we've all been there, pushed ourselves. What did that map moment feel like?
I knew I could see it happening in real time, but I kept saying to myself, exactly your point. You just got to get through it. You just got to get to midnight. You just got to get to the end of shift. And I was actually more upset with myself for not being able to push through. But the fact that someone else told me to leave gave me that permission that I needed. I went back to my hotel room and I crashed and I woke up the next morning and I got on a plane. I came home and I think I actually sent apology emails to people at HSN because I felt so terrible. But that just sort of goes into the whole point of women and how we don't take care of ourselves as well as we should. And we sometimes need permission from outside, not even permission. You are done. It wasn't, hey, Beth, if you are done, you are welcome to leave. It was, Beth, you are done. Sometimes that's what it takes. And hopefully people have a partner or a friend or a parent or a child or a sibling who can be that for them. But I think most of us just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. We get into a state, and I include myself in that, of just this heightened constant motion with little interruptions. And there it takes a monumental effort to slow down and say, I need 5 minutes to see if this is even all making sense. Because I'm just looking at the 18 things in front of me and not looking at the big picture.
Right. And the never ending list of to do, you cross one thing off and another thing pops up.
Because it feels so good to cross it off the list. I'm crossing off the questions as we're going, and I'm thinking, yes,
oh, see, I know it feels good. Written lists. My husband and I had this conversation the other day. He loves to do things on a phone, like lists. I need to write them down because I love to cross off things. It makes me so happy.
I will write down things I already did and then cross them off. That's sick. I know
there's no shame in that. No shame.
So let me ask you this about this experience on HSN where they said, get your purse, you're going home. Did that change your self-awareness since then?
What's real interesting about that is it hasn't, and I'm afraid it has made me, so I have been incredibly lucky. I decorated the White House for Christmas under the Biden administration for several years. And the first year I did it, I was with a group of influencers that came. And one of the younger women that came, huge numbers on TikTok, Instagram, like hugely popular. When I went that time, it was a 4-day process. And you worked from like 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. She did not show up one of the days because she was not feeling it. And I thought to myself, and actually had this conversation, because there were, people in their early 20s. I think the oldest person in the group was maybe in their late 40s, early 50s. Those of us who were 35 and up looked at that behavior and were like, you've got to be joking.
Yeah, demerit. Immediate.
But the people in their 20s were like, yeah, I get it. And so I struggle with that as someone who is pseudo-parenting 20-ish-year-old young men and women, because I do believe so strongly in taking care of yourself, but I was raised by people who get the job done no matter what. And so it has been I've talked about that with friends since. And it's a very interesting generational issue, I think. Young women feel more comfortable being like, you know what? This is not for me. And women, I'm going to include, you and I are same age-ish.
We are.
Generational,
Yes, we
women
are.
Our age, I was raised by a woman who was in the superwoman, you can have it all. She worked full-time. She raised 2 kids. She had a husband who didn't cook dinner. Et cetera, et cetera. My dad was a wonderful man, but he was raised that the women did all the work. And so I was raised by a superwoman. And so she instilled that, you just work and get the job done. And I think women now in their 20s are like, you know what? I don't have to if I don't want to. So it's been interesting to watch it happen in real time, because I'm not sure what the right answer is.
It's working for them.
It sure is.
I mean,
it sure is. And I do not have that in me.
No, I am 46 years old. I'll be 47 later this year. And I see that I kind of straddle those 2 generations. But there's still a part of me that says, you have to show up. I don't care if you're running a fever. You have got to show up.
Yes. I will say, I think our generation, I am real good at saying no. If I don't want to do something, I feel perfectly comfortable saying no. But once I have said yes, I will kill myself to do it. So I think maybe that's the difference. My mom's generation,
delineation,
right? My mom's generation felt like they couldn't say no to anything and they had to do it all. I feel like we have the choice of doing things and how full we want to be. So we do have the ability to say no. It's just whether we feel comfortable with it, which I totally feel comfortable with it. And then, but once I say yes, I'm all in. The younger generation feels comfortable saying no, but will say yes and then change their mind later. I think that's sort of where we are.
Yes.
As women.
They have, and I love them at the phase in life where I'm talking about the younger generation, the young girls.
Oh my gosh.
I'm there.
I feel so old.
But like
I feel so
old. Let me tell you about my Advil I had to take this morning just to get up. But they give themselves permission to pull out of the race, the rat race, where you needed an HSN producer to say, no, your labored breathing isn't working, Beth. You need to go home. So
that raspy voice is annoying everyone. Please leave. Yeah.
That is such a great.
I think you're right. That's exactly what it is. They give themselves permission.
And I don't know who did, like who said they could, but it's working for them. And
I know.
I'm kind of jealous. And they don't have to wash their face every night. That's the thing that I knew was a tipping point for me. Where like I could not go to bed and not wash my face anymore because this is not a skincare podcast, but it was noticeable. It was so noticeable the next morning. Okay, on that awkward note, since we're talking about crafting and creativity, and that's obviously such a passion for both of us, I want to talk more about Kingston Crafts and the origin of that. One of the products that I love that we've talked about is your scrapbook collections, which I have here.
I do. I love it so much.
Let me just say I've completed several. One of my favorites is for my nephew Gus, and his parents have that. But this is the one I'm working on that has doggies in it.
Look at the babies.
I love people.
Oh my gosh.
But this is a full one with the dogs that we've started, and I just.
Oh my gosh.
This is such a safe place.
Oh, look, that makes me so happy. Oh my gosh.
I mean, we're not going to go through all of it, but like it's so easy, and clearly this is creativity. This is mental health and healing, and also community. So talk a little bit about the origin of Kingston Crafts and specifically getting back to crafting like this with our scrapbooks.
So as all smart business women do, I started Kingston Crafts during COVID.
Nailed it again.
Perfect. Great planning on my part. So I had been on HSN for 15 years by then, about 15 years. And I was approached by another company and they said, have you ever thought about doing your own brand? And so we worked together for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I wanted more control over my company and my creative process. And I wanted to bring it back in to myself. So the Kingstons made another interesting life choice right after COVID, when my husband was trying to figure out what he was going to do for a job. We invested $40,000 of our own money to kickstart Kingston Crafts on our own. And thankfully it has paid off, but that was a huge risk that thank God Don believed in me and HSN believed in me. And so I feel very, very lucky, but that was a huge risk we took. And one of the reasons I did it is I come from an ethnically diverse family and community, and scrapbooking in particular has always been quite white. And so I wanted to create products that my nieces and nephews and friends' kids and neighbors and midshipmen could use to create projects that look like them. And so our paper doll collection, which is what we first launched, is that. And it has been a labor of love, and it's taken a lot of feedback from customers, which we have been so grateful for, but it is far and away the most popular thing we sell. And what makes that so amazing, and it's sort of what brought me to getting back into the scrapbooking, was seeing, I know you're in our Facebook group because you shared your cute Gus album and all. I love to see your project. In our Facebook group, people will share pictures of themselves with their children, with their grandchildren, with their Girl Scout troop, with their vacation Bible study, using the paper dolls, and these children are creating cards and crafts with dolls that look like them. And it just brought me so much joy. Even if Don and I talk all the time, even if Kingston Crafts stopped making money, I would still make the paper dolls, because seeing people off of their phones and crafting with their kids and their grandkids and the children in their lives, that is everything to me. Because that's the way I grew up, right? Doing crafts with my mom and my grandmother. So that's the way I grew up. So once I saw that happening, it got me thinking about our nieces and nephews and how I wanted to incorporate how much I love them and our stories and our history together and our memories. And so that's what got me back into scrapbooking and into Everyday Stories, which is the system we created, because I'm busy. And I was a 12 by 12 scrapbooker for a long time, but a 12 by 12 scrapbook page is overwhelming.
It's a commitment.
And I just it's a commitment, and I lost the joy for it. And you have to design everything. You can't just slap a picture on there. So we created Everyday Stories based on the 4x4 size, because so many businesses and, drugstores, everybody's making 4x4 pictures now. So it's 4x4 album refills. We pre-cut all of the paper for you, and it's got journaling prompts, and it's got all the things, right? So you don't have to have adhesive. You don't have to have a trimmer. You do not have to be a crafter. You do not have to have any other supplies. You just need to have this album in your pictures. And that has also become a story of its own. Again, seeing people like you made the album for your nephew, seeing people who are like, I made one of these for my daughter who just had a baby, or my niece and nephew just got married, or my niece just got married and I made a wedding album for them, or, my friend just lost their pet and I made a pet album for them, because it's so easy. And because you don't have to have all the stuff, and you can do it in the car, and you can do it on vacation, and you can do it with your kids and grandkids. That's why we started it, and it has exploded in the best possible way. And so we do the monthly virtual crops. Seeing people share their albums is it's everything I could have possibly hoped for. Like I will never be more successful. No matter how much money I make, I will never be more successful than getting people to get their pictures off of their phones and into their books, to share their stories and their memories and write down their thoughts, even if it's just who, what, where, when, why. Sharing those memories and being able to pass those on is everything. Everything to me.
People did this before we had smartphones. People would sit around the table, our mother's generations, and we just had a family reunion over the weekend, and all of the elder members of the family who are in their 70s and 80s brought shopping bags of photos and put them on the table, and they're handing me, and like, here's a picture of your grandma Helen when she was in her 30s. And it was like priceless to see. It was incredible. And
it's such a treasure.
What that meant for our family, just to connect in that way, was just beautiful. And it reminded me of the ease and the simplicity of putting together a scrapbook with your collection or any of the others. Get them off your phones and put them in a book, because it will be for you to enjoy. And your brain processes differently, as you mentioned, holding the physical book, holding the physical scrapbook. You just have a different emotional experience when you're engaging with this.
Seeing your mom's handwriting.
Yes.
Or you seeing your grandmother's handwriting. Since we were just talking about 20-year-olds, let me talk about being old again.
We do love them.
I do love them. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I think this system is so important. So our oldest nephew is 23. He is a roughneck. I don't know if everybody knows that. He's covered in tattoos, full beard, just the greatest human ever. He came to live with us for a while. When he did, he had a duffel bag with the 10 items he owned in the world. And he grew up with parents who did not do baby albums and that kind of thing. But my mom had made a scrapbook album, like a little 6x6 baby album for him when he was little. And I I knew that because she and I had worked on some of the pages together way back in the day, and I hadn't given it much thought. When one day and I'll start crying thinking about it right now. One day I was in his room cleaning it, and that scrapbook was one of the 10 things he owned as a 23-year-old. And like, that's everything. And so I think this generation, and then on the other side of that, we were just at a wedding a few weeks ago of some 20-ish year olds. And I was going to make them a wedding album with the Everyday Story system. And I wanted to make sure they weren't like paying several $100s for some big. And she said, oh, we're not, they had a photographer there. They went through all the things. And she said, oh no, we're not doing an actual album. It's just going to be digital. What?
I'm sorry. You're going to send me files?
What? And so again, I think this generation has been raised never having held a physical picture of themselves. They need us. They absolutely need us. So that's what I'm excited about this system. One of the things we're coming out with in a few weeks is mini 4x4 kits, and one is wedding specific, and one is baby specific, and one is birthday specific. Because, I mean, another story, just thinking about the other day, one of my best friends from college came to visit with his daughter. She's in her 20s. I was at his wedding. I was there at her christening. I had those pictures in an album, and I got them out to show her, like, oh, here's what your dad looked like when he had hair, to sort of tease him. And she sat at our dining room table for probably 2 hours because she had never seen a printed photo of her parents.
Wow.
She had never seen their wedding photos. She had never seen pictures of her own christening because they had done them all on their phones and never printed them out. And I just can't imagine. I cannot imagine growing up like that. And so I do think that this Everyday Stories system is important. Like, yes, it happens to be what I do for a living, but getting these pictures into the hands of these kids so they can flip the pages and think to themselves, somebody loved me enough to make this for me, is something that I think they're just not getting. And you're exactly right. We are those people. We are that generation in the middle.
Yes.
We have the time, we have the supplies, we have the love.
We do.
Just print out the pictures and just make these books for these children.
It's so and we get joy out of doing it. And it helps us, and it also heals us. And that's what I love about the Creative Act and the generations of women that went before us, sewing circles, knitting circles, like they were there making things for their ungrateful children. Yeah. But they were also there coming together in community to heal one another. Yeah. So well, that is what you've done for us today, Beth, is really helped us heal. And just thank you for sharing your journey and your story. And I know you are a well-loved overshare to begin with in life. But
my nephew's going to be real thrilled. I just cried talking about his photo album, so he'll be real proud.
This is what life is about, and this is what connects us. And this is where creativity and what something is so simple as a little bag of embellishments, what it can really do to our families and to heal us. So Beth Kingston, your wonderful husband, Don Kingston, we love you both. Thank you. Please keep creating and making beautiful products and putting them out in the world. This has been
Thank you for everything you're doing to get these stories out and helping other people to heal, whether they hear something that means something to them or they see someone that means something to them and they listen to their stories. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. The feeling's mutual. Thank you again.
Thanks, my friend.
I'd like to thank my guest, Beth Kingston of Kingston Crafts, for sharing her story and her heart on today's episode. Download the PDF in today's show notes to see more from Beth and Kingston Crafts. And as an added bonus, Beth has offered the Wendy Crafts community a 10% discount on anything from KingstonCrafts.com. Simply use the code WendyCrafts, all one word, at checkout to save 10% on your next order. And remember to like, subscribe, and even tell a friend about the Wendy Crafts podcast.